All right, guys, and welcome to the very first episode of our video series. What are we calling this, Skip?
No clue.
No clue?
Scott and Skip, no clue.
Yeah, we...
Throw it to the listeners.
That's a great idea. So if you guys have any suggestions, let us know. Write in. Tell us what you think a good name for this program is. We don't even know exactly what we're doing yet. As for right now, this is just an experiment. So I'll call it Video Experiment 1 for the Advices Radio Network. I'm sure that most everybody here already knows who Skip Hill is. Skip Hill, diet coach. You can check out teamskip.com for all. What's your slogan, Skip?
Skin is overrated.
Yes, skin is overrated.
Not Skip is overrated. Like the critics like to,
Yeah.
I hear that shit every now and then. I'm like, oh, that's funny.
So I found out who Skip was early on in my bodybuilding. I got started later in life. I've been lifting consistently now for over a decade and eating my meals properly for over a decade. But early on, I'm going to say it had to be 15 years ago now, I found the Intense Muscle message board, and I started reading through that, and I knew who you were long before you knew who I was, Skip. You are...
I'm that old, yeah. I get you. I'm paraphrasing. You're fucking old,
That's not what I'm
Skip.
trying to say.
That's what I feel.
All right.
I'm feeling it. But I am flattered. I'm very proud of the Intense Muscle site. That's why it continues to stay there with no traffic, other than my clients. Its time has come and gone, but there's a ton of information there. So if anybody gets there and they go, oh, nobody's here, there's not a lot of people here. There is, though, a ton of archived information. 14, where are we, 17, 14 years? 15?
Yeah. Is that where
14?
it is now?
Yeah.
Wow.
03, 04, 03. I can't remember. It's been so many years.
I think I might have found you around 05. It was 05 or late. 05 into 06 in that region, somewhere in there. And I mean, that's the home of DC training, which we were just talking on Blood, Sweat, and Gear this week about how it seems like DC might be making a little bit of a comeback right now. So like you said, man, great wealth of information there. You can find out tons of stuff. And I mean, Dante posted just a plethora of information there. People ask,
everybody did.
Yeah.
We had pros, we had people who weren't yet pro. Dusty Hanshaw was always there. John Meadows was always there. Matt Porter was young, but he had come from professional muscle, bounced back and forth a lot like I did. Yeah. There were a lot. Phil Heath posted there too when he was turning pro, briefly, because then of course, when you turn pro, or at least then, everybody has to kind of, ride your nuts on the internet anonymously. Yeah. So he didn't post for very long, but there have been a lot of people through those doors. And I still am flattered today when I hear, I used to be on Intense Muscle with so-and-so, and I was this name. I'm like, wow, no shit. Yeah. It's cool. It is. It's cool. And I still train all my clients there, so it'll always be there. But
nice. Yeah, and like you said, ton of information there. So, I highly suggest you guys check that out. I'm sure, if you're watching this Advices program, I mean, you probably already knew who Skip was, but I thought we should take a minute to introduce ourselves. I'm not going to say much about me. Scott McNally, I run the Advices Radio Network, and I'm grateful that I'm lucky enough to have some really cool people around me that, love the sport of bodybuilding and are passionate about sharing what they've learned with other people. So I'm just grateful to be a part of the ride here and excited to see what we can figure out here today, man. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, we'll see. I think everybody's looking going, God, he makes old guy sounds. He's just constantly clearing his throat. That episode on Family Guy where they talk about the old guys, I was like, gosh, that's not, oh shit, that is me. I do every one of those. And I did not do it when I was younger. Yeah. I grumble. I do all of that shit.
What do you want to do now? I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
And I'm only 47. I got my reading glasses on.
Yeah.
I got to rub a cope in. I'm just a whole motherfucker.
So the cope, I remember now. I'm going to take us back to PED, back when Project Bodybuilding was around, which I recently noticed. It looks like the website itself is totally gone now. Did you notice that? I think...
I haven't slept well since I heard that information, personally. No, I did. I heard something similar to that, too.
My point that I was getting at, though, was you were a big facet over there at Project Bodybuilding, and that's where I first heard your voice. I knew who you were. You started doing PED radio with S2H and Taylor. Yeah. From there, I remember one day you saying how badly you loved to dip and that you didn't do it, that you had quit. It was out of your life. It was out of your life. It was done. And I know the story, and I don't think we've talked about this on the radio show. So this is a great place to start. Because I was never going to pull it out of you. I was never going to say this publicly, but you got the bottle there. You're giving yourself away.
We didn't talk about this prior to the show.
You're giving yourself away right now. So
it's like, here you go. No, it's honestly, I'll admit, it's something I'm a little bit embarrassed by.
Yes,
because I'm an obsessive person, and I think a lot of listeners can relate too. I know you can. When you do something, it's typically all in. It's all or none. I know after quitting for 14 years, I think I chewed for, 12 years or so. Okay. And it was, if I was prepping, it was a couple cans a day. I would get so raw that I had to put them up on top just because they were irritating my gums so bad. Jeez. So I quit one night of a show in 2003, Colorado State. I figured when I come off of this show, first my mouth hurt so fucking bad it was sore. But I figured I'm going to be eating, so it's cool. And it was actually it was easier to quit than I thought it would be.
Okay.
And then, of course, with anything, much like my drinking, I haven't drank in 6.5 years.
Right on.
Not because I'm sober, but because I just feel like death when I do. It's momentum. You get time behind you, and then you go, oh, I don't, but I've always wanted to. And I'm like if I smell it or I see it. And then you hear dumb shit from your friends who have been through med school, and they're like, well, in 7 years, your cells regenerate. So if you had any problems before, you don't have them anymore. And your brain goes, yeah, I'm good. And it was just prepping. It was all the stress of all the shit with Melissa's mom and, all the crap when the prep turned south. I had those health problems from the DNP and shit. And I just one day, I was standing at the counter doing something at the store. Yeah. At the customer service counter where all the tobacco is behind it. And I looked at the can, I'm like, that can looks kind of cool. Like it's different. I'm like, let me see that Coke can. I'm not kidding. This is true.
You didn't even have it in your mind 100% that you were going to buy it yet. You just wanted to see it.
Until I walked up there. Well, I probably did at that point. But when I walked up there, I had nothing. Oh, now, it had been on my brain on and off the last couple months. Probably his stress was building. So I was looking at it, and I'm like, I'll take it. She's like, well, you don't sound like you, and she's kind of smart. She goes, you don't sound like you're real sure. Like, do you even, I'm like, no, it's been 14 years. She goes, you probably shouldn't buy it. And I looked at her, I'm like,
you tell me what to do, lady?
I'll manage my own shit. I'm a grown-ass man. You might be right, but it's irritating me that you're probably right, so I'm going to take it. And I picked it up. I actually was chewing almost a can a day within a week. Ooh. I honestly, because what happened was I started a week before we went to Michigan. I had to make that drive. Yeah. So I'm making that drive at like 18 hours, right, with my son and stuff, and I'm just rub after rub, and then all of a sudden I feel myself, and I'm like, I don't feel very good. Yeah. And I'm not used to the nicotine after 14 years.
That's
so
a lot, too.
And I'll tell you, it is the hardest thing. I'm done with the prep. I had to pull out. Right. I don't have the stress of Melissa's mom now and everything that was going on. Obviously, my health concerns, I think, are over. I'm pretty sure. Melissa's mom is doing well and recovering. I don't have any reason to continue it. But now I started it, and now I'm battling with I need to quit. Yeah. Now, am I? Probably. When? Not during the next 45 minutes. And the bitch is I love it. I absolutely freaking love it. I love it.
Well, I remember you saying that too on the show. You said it, 2 years ago on PED. We addressed this when we talked about nicotine gum on Blood, Sweat, and Gear. And in both times you had said that you had loved it. And then, shortly later when you started back up, it didn't surprise me because of that. I mean, I totally get it. And I also get that feeling of embarrassment too. I smoked for a long time. You know, I wasn't in bodybuilding for most of my life, a lot of it, early life at least. I was into bodybuilding early on when I was a kid. When I turned like 16 years old, I took a completely different path. I went to art school. I weighed like 125 pounds. I drank coffee. I smoked cigarettes, and that was like all I consumed. And that went on until about the time I was 28, 29, somewhere in there. And I had like a complete overhaul. I got clean and sober, and I stopped using drugs, and I started training seriously.
Kinda.
Well, at that time, I wasn't using gear yet, and I still have not used mind or mood altering chemicals. I don't use anything that gets me high still.
Right.
But you know, and that's a topic in itself right there. Somebody who's in recovery using gear. You know, I will say this, just as like a sidebar on that. I don't think steroids in themselves are mind altering. Like I don't take a steroid and then I feel different in a way that makes me want to feel that way consistently. But steroids and anabolics, I believe, do let me push myself harder than I would be able to otherwise in the gym and with my training, and allow me to control all of that so much more. Oh, I guess I should probably put my phone on mute.
Is my wife calling you again?
Oh, shit.
Tell that bitch that we're doing a show.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. I'm just checking mine now. Every one of the messages I sent to you prior to the show, it says Skype or FaceTime. You on? I'm on both. Not delivered.
Nice.
My Wi-Fi is awesome in the house now that I'm hardwired. Yeah.
So, but I was just on to finish that sidebar up. I do think that you could abuse gear absolutely as a recovering addict, and although you might not get like physically high like you would from like, you know, taking some pills or smoking some pot, you could definitely take yourself out of reality by using a lot of gear and focusing on your training and all that stuff. And, you know, you could run from your problems with bodybuilding, I think, just as well as you could run from your problems with anything else.
It's a great topic. You sure you don't want to go down that path?
Oh man, it's a good one. And I think that we should,
is a very good one.
We could throw that one in the hat for down the road. Yeah. But where was I even going with that? I was talking about, so I got into training, and cigarettes stopped making sense. Now, the problem is, and this is something that I haven't told anybody, I had a lot of relationship issues a few years ago, and I started dating this girl, and she had her own set of issues, let's just put it that way, and she was a smoker. And eventually, one day, I picked one up. And it was very difficult to get away from.
Yeah.
And it lasted longer than I would like to admit, put it that way. Right. But I'm glad to say, though, that it's part of my past again. But quitting again and getting away from it was hard. It was very hard. And that's why I'm so adamant when we've talked about like using nicotine as a means of appetite control or as a performance enhancing drug in any way. I've always just thought, you know what, I know myself and I know what it'll do to me. It might not do that to everybody. In fact, it might not do that to a lot of people, but I don't want to, like we discussed before, I don't want to put that out there at the risk that 1 out of 50 people that hear that try it and then, you know, they go down that road. But
sure. Yeah. Well, it's one of the most addictive substances known to man.
Sure.
So that's why I'm with you. When it was brought up as an aid, I thought, oh shit, that's, you know, and I want to be careful with what I say because I don't want to make it sound like the person giving that advice was irresponsible.
Absolutely.
He was giving information that was valid information.
Yes.
I just say that, God, I would be really disappointed to hear that someone was using it for that, and then they got stuck on it and they got hooked on it because it is a bitch, and it's easy to justify because it's just like, what's another day or what's another week? It's not something that kills you or gives you cancer tomorrow.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've got a grandma that's 88.
Yeah.
And the doctor told her not to quit smoking because she smoked since she was a teenager, and when she quits, she gets shingles or hives.
No kidding, because of the stress.
Yeah, so wow. I'm convinced I have her cancer gene because if I have chewed this much for this long and my face hasn't fallen off, and I've been in a tanner since I was 16, I think I'm pretty good. I might be pretty good.
You know, we talked about the melanotin. You said you've been on that more than off. I wonder if that's where the cure is. They need to start looking at the melanotin for the cure for cancer. That's
I'll tell you what, skin cancer, I still believe, and I don't want to be wrong and be diagnosed in a week with skin cancer that has metastasized to my everywhere else, my brain and spine. But I do believe, and I had this conversation, I won't get into it too much because I've talked about it before, but I had a conversation, an in-depth conversation with my wife's cancer specialist who did the surgeries for her because she had melanoma. She had 3 surgeries. And, my wife was concerned thinking, did the melanotan play into that? And if you go on the internet, you'll hear people say that too. But the internet is a weird place because where there's solid and good information, there's also 10 times as much shitty and inaccurate information where people just guess and they're not in a position to really give much of an opinion because they don't have experience or they just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure either. But the conversation I had with her backed up the fact that using melanotan is a bit of a protection in the sense that the large majority of damage from the sun comes from burning.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
when you use melanotan, it's not, people get messed up with this exposure thing. And it's very easy to say, well, any exposure is bad. That is fucked up because sunlight in and of itself is good for the immune system in moderation.
Right.
It obviously creates vitamin D. I mean, think about it. What other nutrient does your body create? It creates it in response to sunlight. Now, clearly going out every day and living in the sun, maybe that's not a great idea. But they have shown, and studies have shown, that it's not exposure in people who live in the sun. It's people who are fair-skinned.
Right.
It's those climates where they have fair-skinned white people that are predominantly getting skin cancer. And it's from burning. That's where the damage is.
Sure.
It's funny, too, because you go to a tanner now, good luck getting a fucking tan anyway. They're so weak and so regulated by the FDA that I just laugh because no one comes out of there with a tan, but yet they'll look at myself and my wife like, I want to go in that tanner because he uses that one. And I'm like, oh, sorry, bitch, I take drugs.
Performance-enhancing drugs for your tan.
You can buy that $120 bottle of lotion and think you're going to get darker.
Right.
They're like, well, do you need lotion? I'm like, I use Jergens when I get out of the shower. Well, that's not going to really. Well, look at me. I don't know what to tell you, but no one's as dark as I am around here. So,
well, I'm tanning 2 times a week now. I think I'm 9 weeks out from my show, and I started tanning at like 4 minutes a session, and I peel, like instantly peel. It was bad. So I'm worked up to like 7-8 minutes a session now, and I'm doing pretty good with it. So I'm going to stick with that
powder program.
Yeah, exactly.
And it makes it even worse when I have kids who look like China dolls.
Oh, yeah.
We've been stopped before in places that we frequent where they're comfortable enough to ask. Yeah. And ask my wife flat out, like, what nationality is your husband?
Yeah.
Well, you would think that's a pretty rude statement. Obviously, they felt comfortable enough to ask. But look at my kids. One of them's, got red-orange hair.
Yeah.
Looks exactly like me. We're spitting images of each other, except I'm black. I'm not right now because I'm getting back into there I am right there in the tanner, and I've got light coming from both sides with the huge windows, so I don't look very dark, I don't think, right now.
No. You look like an average white guy right now with a little bit of a red tone.
With a little bit of shave that has to get done here.
No, that's the thing. See, I want everybody to know, Skip and I attempted to record this yesterday. We ran into a plethora of technical issues. Now, I didn't shave yesterday, and I was like, well, I'm good. This is fine. Today, in order to do this show, and this is something I normally wouldn't have to do for an audio podcast, I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, you know what, Scott, you got to shave before you do this. This is taking things to a new level. I don't like the idea of actually having to physically prepare to do a podcast. I don't know how I feel about that.
Did you purposely wear that sweatshirt? Did you think to yourself, I got to be careful with what I wear. I got to look big, but I got to not.
I didn't, but I did intentionally think about not wearing specific logos, put it that way, that I don't want to advertise. But I always do that now. I realized, what you got?
I was going to wear this.
Have you put that on yet, Skip?
You know what? I was good. Yeah. Well, one.
How did it fit?
Perfect. It's that nice thin, make your arms look big sleeves. Yes, well chosen. Yes. Yeah, I love that. I like the thin material. I don't like the I'm wearing a heavy, I call them Harley Davidson Carhartt t-shirts.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're so heavy. I think Harley Davidson was smart enough. They did 2 things right. They made their sizes bigger because large majority of people who ride Harleys are wrinkled, old, and fat.
Drink beer and stuff like that.
Yeah. So they don't want to make them feel, it's like Abercrombie and Fitch. They fuck their sizes up. Everybody does apparently these days. And it's such heavy material that you don't feel as fat wearing it.
Oh, really?
Like, yes, man boobs won't show as much through
Interesting.
thicker material. But you put on that thin one, you got man boobs, not flattering.
I see. I never thought about that, but yeah, all the bodybuilders are against the thick because they want that. They want to show, and you know what those shirts do? They do show that shape. I'm looking for another shirt now. I want to get like a burnout material, and I've got an idea for a new logo. So I'm actually going to go down and try to get those printed. So now I'll have to send you a new edition of the Advices shirt. But yeah, I'm going to try to put those up. When those are set, I'm going to try to put them up on the website too. And I don't really make anything off of them. As you know, the shirt market isn't like, you know, you're not going to get rich off of them. But if I can sell a bunch of shirts and then that provides me with money to buy more shirts, and then I can make more shirts and keep doing that. So that's kind of the game.
Good marketing.
There. Yeah.
You get your name out there, people see it, and they're like, oh, I've heard of that before.
Plus, you know what? Every time, I mean, I'm a big podcast fan, and every time that a shirt has been available and I've picked it up for one of my favorite podcasts, I'm always so happy about that. So it's always been, there's been like a couple of them that I've missed. And because of that, like, I feel like I'm never going to do that again. And I'm happy to be able to offer them. But that's a whole other story. You know, we've got a question here. And we're going to make this show not a Q&A show purposefully. We're going to do topics. That's one thing. But before we get to that question, Skip, I wanted to tell you about my training. Now, I recorded this yesterday, but I'm going to cut to a set of Meadows Rows. Let's see if I can roll that here. There we go. We got that playing now. And Skip, I wanted to ask you, now I shot this yesterday because we planned on doing the show yesterday, and I figured, well, I'm going to shoot a set of those Meadows Rows that I just did today, and then I can ask Skip, what do you think about this exercise?
See, I think you're asking me because you already know. You know what? And I got to be careful because I said this, if John Meadows is listening, trying to get information from me, thinking he can glean, get more knowledge. I mean, it happens sometimes. No, but, John's a good guy, and I think that his training is fucking awesome. So I'm going to preface it with that.
Yeah.
I'm just not a big fan of the angle.
Okay.
It pulls, when you do the row, you're pulling essentially, here I am, out and away from the body.
Yeah.
And it's just, in looking at it, biomechanically, it looks more like that would be an awesome rear delt move. Because I see back exercises and the mechanics involved with full contraction as the bar coming from out and in. Look at a hammer strength pull. They start, or they come in, that sort of thing. And you're able to pull in and then essentially contract middle traps and rhomboids. Yeah. And I can't see that there's a max contraction. I call it finishing reps when it comes to back training. Okay. There are a lot of people with subpar back development that aren't able to finish. And I'm not talking about the path of the bar. It may even look like the bar is going where it's supposed to, right, or the dumbbell. But it's that finish where the shoulder rolls back and you can do it. The one-arm Meadows row is a good example of an exercise that you should be able to finish because it's one. With two, it's almost like your muscles get in the way. You don't have as much range of motion to finish. But when it's one at a time, you've got the ability to pull across. Yeah. And I just don't see that with this exercise. Is it different? Is it unique? Yes. I personally would rather go with Meadows pullover that is banded. I think that one was brilliant. And I'm not a big banded guy. It's tough when you write for Elite FTS and you write an anti-bands.
Did you really?
Resistant bands. Yeah, I did.
How did that go over?
I thought I might not have a writing job anymore. But what I said was there is application. We're in this trend. Everything trends. Everything cycles. And I said it'll come and go because it's just kind of this new thing. In powerlifting, I think it's incredibly beneficial because you have different parts of your movement that may be weak, whether it's the top of your bench. Yeah. You can't lock out. Things like that, lock out a bench. Bands are beautiful for that. But from a bodybuilding standpoint, your chest is activated more when the bar or the dumbbells are in the bottom stretch position than at the top where the shoulders and triceps start to take over more. I don't see a benefit there. If you've got weak shoulders and triceps, don't band your chest exercises. Train the shit out of your shoulders and triceps. So I just don't. And the other thing is it ranks up there with chains with me. It's complicating something that I think can stand to be or remain far less complicated.
Fair enough.
How long does it take to set up all these fucking bands? And, you're looking at some cat going, are you fucking kidding me? Like, oh my God, I want to use that piece of equipment. And it takes them forever to set it up. And then they got to break it all down. What do? Drag chains to 24-hour fitness? I mean, shit.
Yeah, and chains, that's a tough one. Bands you can throw in your bag. That's an easy one. I use them.
You can buy them from Elite FTS.
Yes,
I want
you
to
can.
throw that in there.
Yeah, you could get them from Elite FTS. You can even get the Mountain Dog pack, which is what I have, and it's a nice variety. I followed John's programming for a long time, a few years, and even before I knew his exact workouts, I had been reading a lot of the stuff he posted and trying to look at the ideas of Mountain Dog. So bands are something I got into, and training with Shelby. We've done a lot of banded stuff. For me, and I won't get into my whole angle on it, I think Shelby, I'll say what he said one time. He likes using bands because they're different and they're fun. That was like it. He was like, it just feels different.
And when you train for a long time,
right,
it does add something new. I can't
and I think that's part of the reason I like them. The other part is with my lower back, if I'm doing squats, I'm a lot stronger at the top of the rep than obviously you are at the bottom of the rep. So I'm at a point sometimes where I could handle a lot more weight through 3/4 of the rep, but that bottom portion, it's just going to throw my back out. But if I had the band on there to do like a reverse band and deload it, then I can handle more and I can learn to work up more. But there's, all sides to the spectrum. I think though that if I were to come into it today, I would probably avoid bands because everybody I see at my gym has bands now. Like everybody who needs them, who doesn't need them. There are kids that have on, $120 lifting shoes with a duffel bag that probably was also $120 with bands and straps and every other device, and they weigh 150 pounds, And for that reason, I feel like I would be right there with you and be like, fuck these bands.
Yeah. Hey, I had the arm blaster in my bag when I was like, did you just give me the look like you don't know what that is? Oh my God, I just dated myself.
Are you talking, is it for curls?
It is. It's that giant metal thing that hangs around your neck that Arnold made popular. Yes. Yeah. And, I was convinced when I was a teenager, and this is how shit works when it comes to marketing. If I did not have that arm blaster, my arms were not going to grow as good as they could.
Wow.
And if I forgot my arm blaster, my arm workout was screwed. It's just it's weird. And especially when we're younger, we tend to be, influenced so much more by all this extra shit. It also makes us appear, and this isn't for, me or you or Shelby, but it makes a person who has just come in, typically a younger kid, or come into training, seem more serious and more in tune with what needs to be done. Like, oh, he's got bands. He's with the times. He knows what's going on.
Absolutely.
Now, when they come up with a band that makes the portion of the movement that I'm looking for almost like the opposite, like if it makes the chest work harder in the stretch position, I'm down. But that's why I like the band on the pullover. I think it's great because at the top of a dumbbell pullover, essentially you're resting and your triceps and chest are contracted, but there's not a lot of back. When that band is on there, instead of it getting easier towards the top, it stays the same, or it might even get harder. Problem is if you train at a 24 like I do, the fucking benches are bolted to the floor.
Oh, yeah. It's like that at the Novi Powerhouse now, too. They bolt them all in place. Yeah.
What is that, liability?
I guess. I don't know.
It has to be.
I
clean
would
up.
think so.
putting them back where they're supposed to be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But that was, and I want to go back to the Meadows Rows. I know what you're talking about, and I've been criticized for it before. I don't always bring my shoulder up into that point where you call it that finished position. Oh. And I keep it, well, you'll have to watch the video for yourself and see, but I don't do that. And I was thinking about that and wondering, should I take that up further? Because I changed a lot of my form, I think, over the last few years. And what somebody had said to me in the programs that we're doing was that we will hit hitting like the upper into the rhomboids and the mid back, that we're focusing on the lats in this exercise, and that we can focus on those areas in another exercise, into the rhomboids and then into the traps. So that's, I guess, the retort to that. But I don't do that. I've shifted almost, and I didn't know whether I was right or wrong in that. But you're not alone in feeling that way, that you must bring that total, what did you call it? Like the finish, the rotation all the way up?
I call it a finish, where it's just where the shoulder blade almost kind of, rotates and is pulled in towards the spine or towards the middle of the back. Yeah. Now, the other question is, does every back exercise have to have that? A pullover doesn't, but a pullover is incredibly effective. I have found pullovers, not only for myself, who is, I'm relatively narrow-shouldered, so I don't have scapula that pull apart. Okay. I watch my wife do chins, and I'm like, oh, you're such a bitch. Because her scapula will pull apart and round out and everything else, and mine just stay there in like a straight line. So for me to widen my upper back, I have actually found pullovers to be a godsend.
No kidding, really?
Yeah. Huh. And I've had clients in similar situations where they don't have that ability to pull. And there may be people listening who go, well, you just haven't done the DC stretching and you haven't really. Look, I don't know it all.
Go read Intense Muscles.
But I've pretty much fucking done it all. Yeah. I've pretty much done it all. In 34 years of training, there's very few things that I haven't done. Yeah. Even if I don't think I'm going to like something, I still will do it. I wasn't very fond of that Meadows Row when I saw it, but I thought, hey, I know John. I know when it comes to training, he knows his shit, so I'm going to give it a shot. I just personally didn't like the angle. The other thing I didn't like either was I already have a bad lower back.
Yes.
It's hard for me to stay in a bent over position to do reps on the left and reps on the right. I can't do it with a cable either. And I wish that I could. A low pulley, one arm cable, that is an awesome feel. But by the time I get to the second set, if I start with my right and I get to the left, my lower back just wants to blow out. It's so fatigued that I can barely even pressing against my knee. It's killing me. Absolutely killing me.
You know what? One thing that I think I do with the Meadows Row too, because I think you make a really valid point about how it pulls away. I kind of lean into the machine, if that makes sense. So my foot that's closest to the machine, and I'll look here. If I have another, I shot a few videos. If I have a video that will show this angle, I'll put this one up and roll it right now while we're talking. I lean into the machine as I'm rowing. So as I'm going up, I'm actually like leaning toward it. I put all my pressure on the foot that's closest to the machine. And then I kind of, my body kind of shifts as I'm doing the movement. So I think that kind of helps, because I think you do make a point that you are kind of pulling away from your body. You're not, everything else it seems like you do kind of, when you row when you squeeze, and you squeeze toward yourself.
Right. Here's how you could fix it if you wanted to be a dick and completely go against John Meadows. You could put the handle not on the outside of the plates towards the end of the bar, but you could put the single handle. This is going to be hard to explain, but follow me because it'll make sense. Okay. You put the single handle where you would normally put a double handle below the plates.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So far. And what you do is you don't stand over the plates. Here's an example. If I'm pulling with my right arm, I would have the bar or the handle here with the plates out here, and then bent over, and then that angle would pull up and in instead of opposite. When you turn around and you were going to do the left, then of course you would have to turn around the other way. But it's a placement of the bar. The reason you can't have the bar in the same place is if you were to pull up, the plates would hit you in the chest. You wouldn't have a range of motion.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not here to for everybody to let John Meadows know that I corrected him. That's not the case. And it's the fact that it's a unique and different movement to where it doesn't pull back and across, maybe in and of itself beneficial as well.
Yeah.
Who says that every exercise has to be finished, the same way?
Sure. Yeah, I found a lot out of them. I like them personally, and I'm going to keep doing them. But I just figured I did those for my back training. Now I'm training back twice a week now, so I'm doing not quite DC. I'm not going to even say DC. Not fortitude either, but definitely those things are inspiring me to try to do higher intensity, lower volume, and more training more often.
So kind of like 4 to C. Training.
Yes.
I'm trying to incorporate. It was bad. Yeah. It was bad.
But anyway, I do have a question here for us, and this question comes to us from Andrea Watson, who got her bike stolen today. So I'm sorry, Andrea.
Bike, motorcycle?
No, she got her bicycle stolen. It was her main means. Hey, it was her means of transportation to work and stuff.
I'm teasing. That does suck.
And it's gone. So Andrea, we are on the case. I'm sending Skip out to he's going to track it down for you, and we are going to get your bike back.
We're going to buy you a motorcycle. That's what we're going to do.
Oh, that would be fun. I think she'd like that.
Set up a GoFundMe account for the show, and we're going to buy you a Harley.
Oh, yeah. Okay. What do each of you foresee in the landscape of bodybuilding in the next 10 years? Both the best case and worst case scenarios. So, Skip, you've already pointed out that you've been doing this for a while.
Several times over, yes.
Would you have predicted, first of all, I have a question of my own. Would you have predicted that bodybuilding would be where it is right now?
Well, no, only because I didn't see that there would be other divisions or other opportunities for people. So I can say quite confidently, I think without the other added divisions, They clearly have helped bodybuilding fall off a little. But I think that there are other people who just wouldn't get into it for that reason, just wouldn't compete.
Sure.
Because I've said time and time again that the large majority of people, guys, I'm speaking for guys, which probably isn't very fair, but I'm a guy, so I'm going to speak from that angle. I think most guys find the look before they get into training, whether they're young, whether they're not, they find the look of the physique competitor more appealing than they do a bodybuilder.
Sure.
So, and I just wrote an article about this, The Death of Bodybuilding. It irritates me a little bit when people blame the promoters in situations like this. Like the promoters are greedy, and the only reason that bodybuilding is dying is because promoters are greedy and they have created all these extra divisions. And I think that that's ridiculous because I think it's the there's a few things. Number one, it's a look. Number two, it's the investment of time. And number three, it's the amount of drugs that most people know these days. We didn't know back then. And I say back then when I started, I had no idea. And I was pretty well versed in bodybuilding, but I was well versed based on the muscle magazines. They didn't talk about gear. All they did was talk about supplements. So you had no idea. By the time I figured out, oh, shit, to get huge like that, I got to do drugs. I already had probably 4 years invested, and I was like, oh, well, fuck it. Okay, I guess I either want to do it. I had already locked into being passionate about it, but that look was different then. The Lee Haney, the Lee Labrada, even Rich Gaspari, I said, he always blocky for the time. He still had a relatively small waist compared to people these days. So where do I see it going? If they continue to offer these divisions, and I'm talking strictly from a competitive standpoint, it's going to continue to make the turnout for bodybuilding smaller and smaller, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. I mean, it's just so painfully obvious. I can't see it going in any other direction. Classic bodybuilding has a chance.
Okay.
Because that limits the size based on height to weight ratio, which I think is brilliant. And I see what they're doing. Essentially, they're trying to very subtly control how ugly bodybuilders are starting to look as far as midsections, because the size game, in my opinion, is basically force feeding gear and force feeding food. And I have always said, and will continue to say, it's the force feeding of food primarily over time that is causing the major terrible look of midsections.
I would agree.
And I'm there. I mean, I just posted pictures online of me at 21, and I had this retardedly small waist, and people were saying, "Oh, you were ready for physique." Yeah, no shit.
I didn't see this. I gotta go look.
Yeah,
at
you got to check it out. I weighed 158 pounds for that natural bodybuilding show.
Wow.
And I was tiny. I was in great shape, but to get the size that I needed, because I didn't have it really genetically to carry and build that kind of muscle, I had to force feed myself. And when I started force feeding myself, like most everybody else did in the mid-90s, here comes the gut.
Did you post this on Facebook?
Yeah.
I'm looking at it now, and because we have video, guys.
Check that tight little ass.
You look
That's
good,
like a
man.
9-year-old's ass right there.
You look good, man. Your low back looked tight and lean too.
What are you saying?
I'm saying you look like you got in really good shape, especially considering, how old were you here?
21.
Yeah, especially considering your age and the amount of time you had put in. How long did
and
this
natural.
diet? Yeah.
Natural. Now, when I say natural, let me be clear that 21, when I competed, I was natural. It's a natural mid-Michigan, actually, a Gloria Buckle.
I'll be damned.
Yeah, right up there in Flint. So where was I going? Oh, I had done a couple cycles when I was 16. I'm like a cc of testcypinate, once a week for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Some DECA when I was 19 for 6 or 8 weeks. That was the extent of my. No, that's not true. When I was a senior, I used some Anavar.
Okay.
Oh, it's really hard to recall your drug usage over 34 years.
So how did you get those teardrops there? Legs were looking pretty solid, man.
I know, right? But they weren't big. I've been fortunate that as shitty as my structure is, I mean, you see how fucking narrow I am, right? I got away with it because my waist was like, I don't even fucking know, probably as big as my leg is now. But so I got away with it then. But I always had that leg shape, and that's
Nice.
what saved me. Because people would say, "Oh, your legs are great." I'm like, well, how big are they? And I tell them, they're like, "No way, they're bigger than that." Nope, they're really not. Like, I could wear regular jeans without any fucking problem at all. I mean, I was 158 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah, I would walk around at like maybe 170.
Yeah.
So, when you think about that, you're 12 pounds, walking around 12 pounds all the time over. And, I wasn't ripped. You can look at my abs and there's still some thick skin there.
Sure.
But to see where I don't carry body, and this is age, okay? Right now, getting my lower back and my hips and glutes lean, shit, it's just torturous. I'll be ready from the front.
Yeah.
And I'm 10 to 12 pounds off from the back. So don't let anybody ever say that age does not change the way that your body holds body fat, because it does. It fucking A does.
Well, hey, back on track then. So is this your best case or your worst case as far as the way that or you just say that this is just the way it's going to be? This is just what you'll foresee, not for better or for worse.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think it's honestly, I don't think there is a best or worst case. I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, think about it. How is regular bodybuilding going to change as far as judging criteria if they've already created these other divisions?
Yeah.
So, like, as an example, you don't need to bring your waist down in regular bodybuilding, because if you have a small waist, you'll compete in classic bodybuilding.
Yeah. Especially
Especially these days when people just so badly want a pro card that a lot of them don't even care what division it's in. They just want a pro card.
Sure.
So if you've got I don't want to say mediocre because that's not fair, but if you have I'm going to say it anyway for the sake of the conversation. If you have a mediocre, really good national level bodybuilder and he's got a small waist, it might be a good idea for him to go into classic bodybuilding, and it might be a little bit easier for him to get a pro card that way anyway. Look at the top guys in physique. We could talk about hidden legs and board shorts, but those are some badass physiques.
Yeah, they are. There's no kidding about
top level
it.
guys.
Yeah.
How do you say his name? Sadik or Sadik or
Sadiq?
Sadiq.
Yeah.
The guy's a fucking badass.
Yeah, he is.
If you went out and you polled people on the street, and I'm guys and women, first, a chick would want to sleep with him before they would want to sleep with the fucking top 10 bodybuilding guy, the large majority of them.
Have you seen him recently?
No, I saw a picture of him on...
He's going to Classic.
Oh, he is?
Yeah. I'll throw a picture of that up here so everybody can check it out.
Okay.
But he's putting on a lot of size. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to hang. I mean, everybody really thought that, everybody was excited, I think. Everybody was excited to see somebody that was so successful in men's physique then transition and go to Classic, and he's still working on it. And I do posing with Kenny Wallach, so I got to pick Kenny's brain about Sadiq the other day. But he says Kenny's still working with him, and they're doing very well. But he's looking very lean now. I'm not sure what his overall goal is, but I get what you're saying though, man. In general, and look at you got a guy right there who had the shape and the genetics that if he wanted to make himself bigger, he'd still look great. And that's what he did. So I get what you're saying, man. The guys at the top level of men's physique are freaking, they're great looking. They're like mini bodybuilders, basically,
right.
With good shape.
And think about it. I think that there are, and maybe I'm overthinking it. That's fine. I've had 34 years to think about it and watch it progress. But I think you have two types of people in regular bodybuilding. You have the people who want to have the best physique they can. Yeah. And then you have the other people who are kind of borderline crazy. They just don't give a shit about what their physique looks like. They just want to get as freaking big and huge as possible. I can respect both because I've been on both sides, or at least from a wanna be in that. I wanted to be. I wasn't ever going to get there, but I was doing the things that you would do to try to get there. Yeah. So I can understand and respect both sides. I think that the minority of that group, of the two groups, the minority is the one who wants to have a pretty and nice aesthetic physique. Sure. I think the large majority of people in regular bodybuilding just want to be a freak. And not only do they want to look like a freak, but they want to live like a freak. They want people to notice that I eat 10 times a day. I do massive amounts of drugs. I can't carry on a conversation outside of what I bench and what my diet is and things like that. Yeah. And I mean, you can laugh about it, but the large majority of those people, that's how they are. They're consumed by it. And Shelby said something the other day that I honestly have to agree with to a certain degree. To be elite, you have to give up balance. Yeah. I think that for the large majority of people, that's true. I agree. However, there are still those people that if they're efficient and good at structuring their time, I don't know that that's always the case.
Do you think to be elite, though? I guess it depends on how we define elite. Like the winner of an Olympic sport, Well,
I think what it comes down to, too, is where's your genetic potential? Let's just say, and I'm going to use these two examples just because I think they're good examples, and it means I have massive respect, in bodybuilding for both of these people. Let's just say Shelby and Phil Heath. Maybe that's not a fair comparison, but I'm trying to show the difference in genetic potential, okay? Someone like Shelby is going to have to probably be consumed and do every single fucking thing right to have any chance. Someone like Phil, who has such a genetic, and I'm not in any way saying that Phil doesn't work hard and Phil doesn't deserve it. That is not, he does, and he's worked hard. But let's be fair. There are plenty of people who train harder than Phil. And I know that because I've seen it. I've seen it for years. Yeah. Now, does he not train hard? That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is there are people that will outwork him that will never be able to even stand next to him on stage and have any chance at all. Okay. So I think it depends on the genetic predisposition. There are people who are genetically gifted, and we see it in different sports. I mean, watch 30-30 shorts or things like that. Marcus Dupree, people like that who had this extraordinary gifted ability to play football and didn't have to work very hard. And I've seen it on the inside in the NFL. There are running backs who stay lean all the time and are retired, and they walk around and their lunch is a bag of Doritos. So, other people have to, the linemen, they got to eat exactly the way this, or they blow up and they miss their weekly, weigh-in weight and they're docked, $25,000. Right. So, I think the genetic potential plays into that hugely. And I like the message. Here's the thing. I don't want to counter Shelby's message because I think the message is good.
Yeah.
The point is you have to work your fucking ass off. And I agree to a certain point, but I don't think everybody has to. I think there are exceptions. Now, the other argument would be, even though Phil is the best in his sport relative to the people around him, could he be even better than the Phil he is now and be that much further above everybody else?
Yeah.
If he were to be consumed by it. But I'm a balanced guy. I'm also not an elite bodybuilder, so take it for what it's worth.
Yeah. Oh, I think there's a lot to think about there, and it makes me think about some clients that I've worked with that are on both ends of those spectrums, and I've seen it, or just people I've known, you know, guys that have amazing genetic gifts and haven't lived up to their potential, the guys that have had very few gifts but then outworked other people. I guess I'm definitely on the end of not having as many genetic gifts, and I've had to work hard anytime I've been successful in bodybuilding, and it makes me feel good. At the same time, yeah, it would be great to be a Phil Heath, you know, to be a guy with great potential or great genetic potential, but I enjoy the sport because I enjoy working hard, and I would hate to do it and be lazy. You know what I mean? I
think everybody has different motivations.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's good. And I may not agree with the lack of balance and stuff, but it doesn't matter because it's not my life.
Yeah, that's true.
So if someone wants to be consumed by it and they want to be the best they can be, more power to you. And I respect that. In turn, I would appreciate the respect that I'm trying to stay balanced and trying to stay healthy. You know, Shelby is funny because his situation is the exception to the rule, because he is consumed. Nah, it's not consumed. That's a bad word. But he's so immersed in the sport, not only just the fact that he's a professional bodybuilder and that, but with who he works with and stuff like that. It's odd that someone in his position can keep it all in perspective and take winning or actually losing, you know, not winning as a professional so well. Because that doesn't usually happen with people who are immersed or consumed by what they do. It's devastating to the large majority of people, and it affects them emotionally, and it cuts to who they are and things. He's got this really odd ability to keep it all in perspective.
He does. He has a great perspective.
Yet to keep it, you know, to have it, to be immersed in it. I like immersed better than consumed because I don't think he's consumed by it because I think he has control. He was able to walk away. He knew when he wanted to walk away.
Yeah.
That's not consumed. Consumed is not being able to walk away.
Yeah.
So immersed in it, I think, just surrounded by it all the time. I even wonder, I haven't talked to him like you have, but I wonder if if there's a point where it's just burnout.
I don't know. We'd have to bring him on the show and ask.
There you go.
All right. So Andrew's question was best case and worst case. Where do we see bodybuilding in 10 years? I would say, first of all, thinking about where it will be in 10 years, I can't help but think about where it was 10 years ago. And there's some interesting stuff in the fact that when I go to the expos and the big shows now, it's it's kind of cool in a way that bodybuilding has gained such popularity. I like in a way that it is like hip and popular and fun. At the same time, I really liked the fact that before, when I went to the gym, there was only like a handful of competitors, you know, and those people were all hard workers, you know, and it was very rare that you ever saw a real pro. Like, it was very rare that you'd see a pro in a gym. And when they were, believe me, you knew when you looked at them what a pro bodybuilder looked like, you know?
Yep.
And I feel like, you know, people say that it's gotten watered down. I feel like it has somewhat gotten watered down. I don't know. I think it's a fad right now. I think that it's cool to post on Instagram that you're going to the gym. It's cool to post your meal prep. It's cool to post everything about your fitness lifestyle and all those hashtags. And just like anything else, and I've already kind of predicted this, I think it's going to eventually, just like anything else, it's going to go away. You know, it's a fad. And, you know, does it benefit me? Probably. I mean, it benefits anybody who's coaching that my position in life, my job right now probably wouldn't be, well, it'd be a lot more competitive, right? Skip 15 years ago, it would be a lot harder to find enough people to make a living, to work with. And, everybody works with a coach now, and everybody is a coach now too, I guess. And that's going to further water it down. There's a lot of bad coaching out there. There's a lot of bad physiques out there. If you go to a state level show, there's a lot of people that just don't deserve to be up there, flat out. I don't care how hard you think you worked. If you're fat, you didn't work hard enough to be on stage, period. I don't care about your personal story. And I think that, eventually people are just going to get tired of it. They're going to move on to something else. And I'm going to still be here. You're still going to be here. Right. And we're going to keep doing this. And that's really, and I'm going to keep loving it, And I know like the guys over in the UK, James Hollingshead and, Jordan Peters, those guys are going to kew doing it. People like these people, we're all going to keep doing it, and it's not going to matter. So, all I know, and it takes me back to, I remember, who was that? Perry Farrell from Porno for Pyros. He's in Jane's Addiction, the singer. He said, rock and roll will never die because somewhere right now, there's a kid with a guitar, and he knows that if he can learn how to play that thing, that he can be popular and that he can get girls and that he can be cool. And his buddy plays the drums, and they're in their basement right now, and they're practicing. And so, yeah, maybe, he's talking about motives, but there's kids out there that are doing that because they love it. And I feel like you're never going to kill bodybuilding because we're always going to have new people that are coming up that for whatever reason stumble upon the sport, popular or not, and they find their parents' weight set in the basement or that coach at the YMCA or whatever, and they're going to fall in love with it. So it's always going to be here. As an institution like the IFBB, I don't see it going away, I don't see it going away, but I don't know what's going to happen with it as far as growing. I think you make a good point, Skip, about how they're trying to control bodybuilding, and everybody tells me that, bodybuilding is getting smaller, all the classes are getting smaller, and I see it. And shit, they put us at the beginning of the shows now, which I like, because then I get to do my thing first and then I'm done. Right. I can
easier to peak too.
Exactly. Yeah. But I don't know, man. I don't know. There's the argument too that, what do people come to the Olympia for? That's a huge event, but they don't come there to see who's going to win the bikini, or who's going to win, any of the other divisions. You're not going to fill that place to see who's going to win men's physique at the Olympia,
Yeah, but you can get 200 or 300 crazy ass white people to show up in North Carolina too from all over the country. There's always that fringe. I hate to make the comparison because that's not a very good comparison, but I'm saying when you have people getting together like that, it's fringe. I will say something you were touching on earlier before. I think that bodybuilders above all other divisions, and I know there may be a listener who will argue, I'm just saying as a general rule, not as a complete blanket statement, but I think bodybuilders are more passionate and in love with the day-to-day grind than I think all, bikini, men's physique, things like that. Because I agree with you. I think if we were to look at in, another 10 or 15 years, how long competitors in men's physique or in female bikini is probably the shortest, because you can just walk in, win, and go, yay, and, turn around. And that's not disrespectful to, I've worked with professional bikini girls, and that is completely different than at the state and local level. So obviously it gets more serious as you climb the ladder. I have to say that.
Sure.
But I just think that what you will always have is that passionate love of the grind from the bodybuilders. And something else you said earlier I have to agree with too, and that is, it is disappointing. I've been around for a long time, and part of the reason that I got into bodybuilding was I didn't want to be like everybody else.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a subculture at that time. It was kind of odd, and you stood out so much more if you were just in shape, let alone if you were, huge.
Right.
These days, that's difficult. It's difficult to do because at the very least, a lot of the people who go to the gym still will have really good chest, shoulders, and arms.
Yeah.
So there isn't that standout aspect that I know as a teenager I was looking for and found so appealing when I stepped into it.
Yeah, that's true too.
So, it's so much more common. It's so much more mainstream.
Yeah, it is.
And that sometimes can be disappointing for those of us who do, admittedly, want to stand out a little bit from everybody else.
That's a great point. And I think I think people are afraid to say that, like, oh, I liked being a freak and standing out like that. I liked being weird. But I agree, man. In a way, it's kind of a rebellion. It's a rebellion from being the status quo. And I think that there's something about that attracts me to it, too. And at the same time, because of how popular it is, I don't want to embrace that anymore. You know what I mean?
Right. It's a good place to lay your insecurities.
Yeah. Well, listen,
and we've all got them.
We made it an hour here. We should probably cut it off before we bore everybody.
I know, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
All three listeners or viewers now.
Yeah, we got viewers. So we had a little fun. We got this thing started. We figured out how to add a couple clips as we went. We got to see what Skip looked like when he was bodybuilding at 21 years old. And we'll have to come up with some new ideas, and we'll be back in the future. What do you say, Skip? What do you think? How did it go, man?
I think it's cool. I like looking deep into your eyes while I'm talking to you.
I put my contacts on because my glasses were reflecting constantly. Yeah, it was bad. It was not good.
No, it's always fun.
All right. Well, guys, for Skip Hill, I'm Scott McNally. This has been a production of Advices Radio. We'll be back.